Greece.
Okay, so my name is Bishoy. I'm a first year resident at Vanderbilt in medical physics. And before I go into exactly how I got into medical physics and the path and all of that, I think I need to introduce what is medical physics because I don't think a lot of people know or have heard anything about it before now. Okay, so what is medical physics? I promise I won't get too sciencey into this, but just like it sounds like, medical physics is just physics in medicine, and it's primarily the use of radiation for medical purposes. Okay, so like one of the things that we use radiation for in terms of medicine, if you guys like read about it or learn about it, is that we use CT scanners, we use PET scanners, MRIs, and so forth for like diagnosing certain diseases and certain things. Okay, all of these machines use radiation, so all of these things need a physicist on site to be able to calibrate and to test these machines to make sure that they're functioning properly and that they're producing the right amount of radiation that's they're supposed to do. Okay, that's one side of medical physics, which is diagnostic. You work with those types of machines, diagnosing like machines that diagnose certain diseases. Okay, and then another side of medical physics is a therapeutic side, which deals with treatment. Okay, so we can also use radiation to treat patients, to treat cancer patients. Okay, so we'll use that radiation to target the cancer cells in a patient's body, and we'll be able to kill those cells using the radiation that we administer. Okay, and so this cool looking machine up on the screen, so this is called like a linear accelerator, or for short a LINAC. So this is what's producing the radiation so that we can actually hit the patient and we can actually kill the cancer cells inside their body. Okay, and so this is basically what we work with. I'm a first year therapy medical physics resident. So I'm primarily on the therapy side. I don't work with like the diagnostic machines like CT, PET, and all that. I work with this machine, so it's called a LINAC, and this is the machine that we use to produce the radiation to kill the cancer cells and tumors inside the patient. Okay. And so what does a medical physicist do exactly? So this is what medical physics is. What do they do? Okay. So the responsibilities vary for whether you're a diagnostic or a therapy medical physicist. Okay. So the general tasks, specifically if you're a therapy physicist, then you'll do either treatment planning, and what that means is, and this is the bulk of our job, is treatment planning. Basically, the doctor, the radiation oncologist, he will have a CT scan, and it will show, like, for example, you'll have a patient, he has cancer and he has like some tumor. He'll come to us as the physicist, and he'll be like, hey, here's a CT scan, here's the tumor, I'm trying to treat this. And then it's up to me as the physicist to produce a treatment plan that can best treat this tumor and treat this patient, where we can maximize the radiation to the tumor and minimize any radiation that goes outside that tumor. Okay, so that's the first job. And you can see down here the two pictures below. These are two examples of like possible treatment plans that we'll have for patients. Okay, so like I'm not gonna get too much into it, but like the specific angles, the specific depth in the body, and the specific energies of the beams, and all that stuff. All of that is physics, and all of that we have to figure out to best maximize that radiation to the tumor and minimize radiation outside. So the first thing is treatment planning. Next, we'll also do LINAC calibration and commissioning. So that linear accelerator, this machine that I showed you, we need to test this machine daily, monthly, and annually to make sure that it's producing the correct amount of radiation, that it's not telling us one thing and it's actually producing something else which could harm the patient. And so we test these machines daily, monthly, and annually, for all sorts of different things. I'm not gonna get into it, but so that's another thing that we do. Then we'll do regular testing of any medical imaging devices. So if you're on the diagnosis side, that's mostly what you'll end up doing. But we do this sometimes in therapy as well, where we'll test CT scanners and PET scanners and so forth if we have those in the department. And then any radiation safety and protection within the department as well. So everybody that's involved in the department, us, the radiation oncologists, the nurses, everybody, we manage their radiation safety and protection, make sure that they're not getting overdosed or they're not receiving anything excessive that could possibly harm them. And then we could also do research or also teaching, but that's usually, it's up to you whether you want to be more clinical based and you want to focus more on the clinical side of things, or you want to focus more on like research or teaching or so forth. But that's what we do as medical physicists. So if you're interested in medical physics, what majors lead to medical physics? And the obvious one is physics. So if you major in physics, that's a good pathway right there. But it's not required, it's not necessary. So if physics is very difficult, or for some reason you're interested in something else, you could do engineering, computer science, or any of those types of like math related fields. And as long as you also add the equivalent of a physics minor to that as well, okay? And so some of those prerequisites that you'll need if you do that would be like calculus 3, differential equations, modern physics, a modern physics lab, computer programming, electricity and magnetism, classical mechanics, and quantum mechanics. Now, I know I said a bunch of words and they all sound very big and hard, and what is all this? But you got to think of it as like a step process, okay? You won't take all of those tougher classes until you take some of the easier classes, okay? So you'll build up to it, okay? So it's not that you'll start off right away taking very difficult classes, because I know like a lot of people, when I say the word physics, it looks like they just like, I just trigger something. Hey, physics is not as difficult as it sounds. It's you build up to the difficult classes, but you would have taken so many more prior classes that you're experienced with it, okay? So, and again, you don't have to major in physics. You could do like minor in physics and do something else. And then it's also recommended to take a course in statistics if it's possible. You don't need any biology to do this, because that's one of the things that because I wasn't a big fan of biology. But I prefer to do something in the medical field. Back when I was in high school and I was trying to figure out what I want to do, I preferred to do something in the medical field, but I wasn't a big fan of biology. And so this was something where I liked math and I liked physics, so I could do this without needing to major in biology. So that's, you don't need it to get into grad school. It is recommended you take anatomy, because when you do treatment planning, you need to understand the anatomy of the body and what we're looking at and what certain organs are. So it's recommended to do anatomy. If you don't do it, you'll probably end up doing it in grad school, but that's like the one biology thing that's more necessary. So the path to medical physics, how do you get there? You do your 4 years of undergrad like normal, but then to get certified, you need to do 2 years of didactic work plus a 2-year residency, okay? So 2 years of didactic work, 2 years of residency, and there's multiple different pathways that you can take to fulfill this, okay? You can either do a master's program, a 2-year master's program, and get your didactics finished, and then apply again to residency programs, and it's like through a match process where you'll get matched to a specific residency. Or you could apply to a doctorate of medical physics, or a DMP, which basically combines the 2 years of didactics and your 2 years of residency into a 4-year program. It's called the Doctorate of Medical Physics. And so that's one option. Or you could do a PhD, where you could spend 5 to 6 years in school doing research. If you love research that much, you could do that, and then do 2 years of residency afterwards. So it's up to you what your preferences are and what you want to do. Each one of these has its pros and cons. So for a master's program, you'd apply for a master's program, you take out loans for your master's, but then afterwards for residency, you're getting paid in residency. You're getting paid the equivalent of any like a medical resident that went to med school. You're still getting the same amount. If you do a DMP, or like a Doctorate of Medical Physics, then you're paying for all those 4 years. Even the 2 last years of what's supposed to be residency, you're also paying for those years, because it's considered like a professional degree for all 4 years. So each one has its pros and cons. And then for masters, you're not sure where you'll end up for residency, so you don't know. Whereas a DMP, you're going to spend 4 years at that one hospital, for example. So you need to weigh the pros and cons for each of these. I think I covered everything here. Okay, and so grad school application requirements. So some of the things that you need when you're applying to grad school is you wouldn't take any specific like large exam. You take the GRE if you're doing a master's program, but if you're doing a PhD, you take the general GRE plus a subject GRE. Also, for those who don't know, because I don't know if I'm talking to high school or college here, but the general GRE, the general GRE is basically just like a college version of the ACT, okay? So it's nothing like anything in particular to what you actually did like in undergrad. It's just focused on just general math, reading, all of that stuff, okay? A subject GRE is is that's specific to that subject that you had in undergrad. So you would take the physics GRE, for example, for a physics PhD. If you guys were to do a chemistry PhD, you take the chemistry GRE, okay? So so if you're doing like a PhD, it's almost always required that you take that subject GRE, okay? And then a minimum GPA of 3.0 out of 4. Research is very important for graduate school, okay? So you want to find research opportunities as early as you can in undergrad, okay? So if you're in high school going into college, try to find research opportunities as early as you can early on in college, because it's going to make it a lot easier to find more research opportunities later on, okay? So find research opportunities as early as you can. Look for possible research opportunities either at that school, so like seek out specific professors that might be doing research, or find specific classes that you could take in your undergrad that are more research focused and will make you engage in a research project or something that you could still add to your resume. So all of these are options. You could also apply for what is called an REU. So REU is just research experience for undergraduates. These are like specific internships, like research internships that are funded by the government for all colleges, almost all colleges in the US, where they can fund students to come in for a summer, work for that whole summer or research for the whole summer, present their research at the end of that summer, and they get paid for it. So it's a great opportunity. These tend to be a little competitive, but if you do get one, then it makes you very competitive on your CV or resume or so forth. So those are very good to find and apply to as well. And then always, if you have research opportunities, go out and apply to present your research at conferences to make yourself, more out there, and to also be able to put more things on your resume that shows, you present and you can do that. Okay. And then shadowing opportunities. Find shadowing opportunities. So medical physics isn't a field that's known. So I don't think anybody, I would highly doubt anybody here has heard of medical physics before now, but it's not known. So if this does sound interesting, go and find opportunities to shadow. Seek out you'd always find medical physicists at cancer centers or in hospitals that have radiation treatment. So find those places. Email like the physicist or email somebody at the hospital so they can set you up with one of their physicists, and you can shadow them and you can see what they do, and you can see if you like what they do and if it's something that you can continue in for the rest of your life. Okay. And it's just something in general, like all of these careers are these are all great careers. Make sure that you guys go and shadow and take those opportunities to see what you like and what you don't like. Okay, because this is something that you'll spend the rest of your life doing. Okay, so you don't want to be 3 years down the line very focused in one thing and then realize you don't like it and it's too late at that point. Okay, so very early on, try to find these shadowing opportunities, so you can know what you like and what you don't like. Okay. And then AAPM summer internships. AAPM stands for American Association of Physicists in Medicine. They have summer internships as well. I think they're also they're REUs, but within the AAPM organization, where they also have research opportunities, but they're more focused towards medical physics. So you could always apply for those as well, and you can find those online. And then in general, you're looking to become as competitive as possible on your application. Okay, so regardless of whether it's medical physics or any other career you're doing, make sure that you look as competitive as possible. So seek out extra research opportunities, internships, and extracurriculars as early as you can in college. The more you have, the better. The more it will show your work ethic. It will show that you're invested in what you're doing. Okay. Work to get as high a GPA as you can early on. Don't wait until your last 2 years to focus on your GPA and just kind of neglected the first 2 years. You're taking your easier classes earlier on in college. Okay, your first 2 years you're taking your easier classes. So you want to get your better grades in those easier classes before you take your harder classes, and it's too late then to bring up your GPA. Okay, so work to get as high a GPA as you can as early as you can. And then also get to know your professors early, okay, and let them know who you are and what your goals are. Okay, the reason for this is because down the line and at the end of college, you're going to be asking your professors for recommendations, and so you don't want to be the last year of college and you're looking for professors to ask for recommendations and none of them know who you are. Okay, so make sure early on you find professors, talk to them, let them know who you are, what you're interested in, and that way they know that, and they know you when you're in their classes and you're not just some other student, and so at that point they can actually write meaningful recommendations when you're applying to colleges or when you're applying to grad schools or med schools or wherever you end up going into. Okay. And then yeah, if you guys have any questions, I think you guys will have that afterwards. Okay.
اوكي سو الشغلانه بتاعته اسمها medical physics. هو basically بيعمل حاجه معينه جدا في الميديسن اللي هي ايه، بيبقى في اللي هي المقاشين بتاعه الاشعه، صح؟ فلما بتيجي ناس عندها ورم في حتة معينة وهم عايزين بالأشعة ديت يوجهوها للورم ده بالذات وما الأشعة ما تنتشرش في الجسم كله، بيروحوا له هو، وهو اللي بيعمل التريتمنت بلان، يعني الخطة العلاجية، بيعمل الخطة العلاجية ليهم بالظبط علشان الأشعة ما تنتشرش في الجسم كله. هو بيقول في العموم الميديكال فيزيكس فيها ليها نوعين. اول نوع diagnosing disease basically بيمسك الاشعه اللي هي الاي ام ار اي اللي هي المغناطيسيه او الاشعه السي تي اللي هي الماشينز نفسها، وبيتاكد ان هي بيطلع منها اشعه معينه في وقت معين، الانرجي اللي هي الطاقه بتاعتها مش كتيره ومش قليله. ده نوع منهم اللي هو بيتخصص بالظبط في الماشين نفسها. النوع التاني اللي هو بيشتغلوا زي ما قلنا، اللي هو الناس بتجيله لو عندها ورم وهو بيحدد الأشعة بالظبط تروح فين وبأنهي زاوية والحاجات ديت. هي كان اسمها ليناك اسم الماشين ليناك اللي هو اللي كان بيتكلم عليها. انا اوريدي اتكلمت في النوعين اللي هو اتكلم عليهم. الاندر جرادز اللي هي اول 4 سنين اللي بتتاخد، هو he recommends انك ممكن تاخدها في الفيزيكس، بس ممكن تاخدها برضو في حاجه تانية اللي هي هندسه او كمبيوتر ساينس اللي هو علم الكمبيوتر، او اي حاجه تانية تبع الرياضيات، لو انت مش حابب يعني انك تاخد حاجه فيزيكس يعني. بس قال يعني ان احلى حاجه موجوده انك مش هتضطر تاخد احياء اللي هي بيولوجي، بس هو قال برضو انه يبقى احسن انت لو خدت اناتومي وفيزيولوجي اللي هو علم الجسم، علشان بعد كده طبعا انت المفروض تكون عارف الجسم متكون من ايه، علشان بعد كده انت اللي بتظبط الاشعه وتبقى عارف الجسم متكون من ايه وكده. اوكي. في كذا طريقه انك ازاي تبقى medical physics صح؟ اوكي. بتاخد اول سنتين اول 4 سنين اللي احنا اتكلمنا عليهم اللي هي لا اما exercise science لا اما physics لا اما engineering. بعد كده في كذا طريقه ممكن توصل لها. ممكن تعمل كده هيبقوا 4 سنين. اول سنتين didactic اللي هي بتاخد فصول يعني معينه تبقى ماجستير، وتاني تاني سنتين بتبقى residency اللي هي الامتياز. او ممكن ما تعملش كده وتخش بروجرام 4 سنين اوريدي، وكده هتماتش مع المستشفى اللي انت شغال معاها ويبقى الموضوع سهل اكتر. ممكن كمان تعمل PhD دكتوراه في حاجه معينه تبع الريسيرش اللي هو البحث يعني، او ممكن تعيش اللحظه يعني وتاخد 5-6 سنين، بس مين عايز يعمل كده؟ علشان تخش بروجرام برضو لازم تاخد الGRE ده لو هتخش الماسترز. لكن لو هتعمل PhD اللي هي الدكتوراه لازم تاخد 2 GRE، واحد جنرال وواحد سبجكت. الجنرال اللي هو عامل زي بتاع ACT بس على كلية شوية، يعني في حاجات أكتر شوية. requirements عشان تبقى تخش بالابلكيشن 3 من 4 GPA، بس يا ريت يبقى أحسن. تعمل بحث كتير وتلاقي كورسز معينة في الكلية تبقى فيها حتة إنك ممكن تعمل بحث. وفي حاجة research internships دي بتبقى حاجات عاملينها في كل الكليات إنك تخش في بحث معين، وساعات بتبقى paid يعني يجي paid في آخر الصيف إن أنت عملت البحث المعين ده. طبعا كل الحاجات دي بتضيف على الريزومي بتاعكم. بس كده.
ثانك يو مدام. احنا قربنا، انتوا كشيتوا شويه، انا عارف هو اليوم طويل، بس المعلومات زي ما انتم سامعين كده كلنا محتاجين نعرف الحاجات دي عشان ولادنا. وانتوا for you guys it's very important. I understand. Are you getting cold? Yes. حاضر نظبط دي سهله دي. حاضر. Do you need to take a break? We have 4 more majors. صح؟ لو عايزين بريك قولوا لي، لو مش عايزين بريك we can keep on. We're good. طيب ماشي.
Next we have Marina Basha for dental hygiene.
اوكي انا عملت الباتشلرز في dental hygiene. هحاول اتكلم both انجليزي وعربي. So dental hygiene mainly focuses on cleaning the teeth. You focus on assessing the gums, you take x-rays, You do 3D scans, and then you work also with the doctor whenever they come in to do the exam for the patient. We do things like placing sealants, which is usually done on children to help protect their teeth. الدينو هايجين بيركز في نظافة الأسنان. usually بنشتغل تحت دكتور أسنان. بنبص على اللثة، حالة اللثة، بنعمل نظافة، بناخد الإشعاعات كاملة، بنعمل 3D imaging. So basically بتبقى زي سكان بتوري أجزاء كلها من الأسنان، وبنعمل حاجات preventative care. So إن هي تمنع إن أصلاً الديزيز زي إن الأسنان تسوس أو إن يكون في مشاكل تبدأ في اللثة. So هو في actually slide missing، بس the most common degree هو ال associate degree, which is المفروض إن هو 2-year program. بس usually هو أكتر من 2 years علشان بيكون في prerequisite classes required في الأول قبل ما ندخل البروجرام ده. الكلاسز دي بتتاخد من فترة سنة أو سنتين على حسب يعني كل واحد هياخدها في فترة قد إيه. والبروجرام نفسه بيبقى سنتين. الأسوسيت دي required هيشتغل في الكلينيك. الاختيار الثاني لو حد حابب يكمل الباتشلرز اللي هو البكالوريوس في الدنتال هايجين، ده بيكونوا يعني محتاجين الديجري دي لو حد حابب ان هو يكمل يتيتش، او حابب ان هو يدخل في ريسيرش، حابب يدخل في public health، او حابب ان يشتغل في sales. وفي also masters in dental hygiene لحد حابب ان هو يكمل تاني. ال prerequisite classes usually اللي هو زي gen eds, so English, college algebra, anatomy and physiology, chemistry, chemia, psychology, sociology, microbiology, humanities, and communications as well. Admissions, so علشان إن حد يدخل البروجرام كل school is different على حسب الكلية نفسها، عندهم different requirements. But as many mentioned, one of the required exams sometimes for specific schools is the HESI exam, which includes some English, math, chemistry, biology. Some schools require عندهم يعني some schools بيطلبوا امتحان بتاعهم هم، بيكونوا هم مخصصين في الكلية بتاعتهم. وفي very minimal schools that don't require an exam, but they'll require مثلا an essay حاجة تتكتب, and most schools also require an interview to get in. So experience, لازم specific experience to get into the program. إن حد يدخل البروجرام مش محتاج إن يكون عنده experience, بس it's highly encouraged to shadow علشان اللي داخل المجال ده يبقى عارف هو هيتوقع إيه. الshadowing basically just بتروح بتقضي وقت وتكتشف حد بيعمل إيه، بتقضي يوم معاه وبتروح كذا مرة تشوف هو طبيعة شغله إزاي. في schools they require externships during البروجرام. في وقت البروجرام هم موجودين require ان هم بيروحوا different clinics, rotate, بيشوفوا الهايجينست شغالين ازاي. But other than shadowing and externships, هم وفي الكلية الستودنت هو في البروجرام نفسه بيكون في وقت بيضطروا ان هم actually وقت طويل من هم في البروجرام بيشتغلوا على patients. هم اللي بيضطروا يدوروا على البيشنتس دول, وهم اللي بيلاقوا البيشنتس بتاعتهم, بس ده جزء كبير من اللي بيديهم الاكسبيرينس ان هم يشتغلوا على البيشنتس. لازم في بورد في الاخر زي most careers يعني to get license, ان هم ياخدوا اللايسنس بتاعتهم. هو في 3 exams. The first one اللي هو state exam is the National Board Dental Hygiene Examination. الإكزام ده 350 questions, 350 سؤال, 8 ساعات. ده أول جزء. بيكون في يوم تاني بقى خالص مش نفس اليوم, بيكون في الستيت exam ده is ADEX exam. ده جزئين، وبرضو الجزئين دول ممكن بيتاخدوا على يومين مختلفين. الجزء الأول بيكون written exam، بيكون حوالي 100 سؤال. وده just kind of give case study questions. The other part, the second part, clinical exam, so hands-on. في الأول كان بيبقى you have to find your patient، بيضطروا إنه يلاقوا patient وبيشتغلوا عليه. حالياً after COVID، بعد COVID غيروا الموضوع شوية وبقي on mannequins. So على mannequin بيشتغلوا which is easier عشان you don't have to depend on somebody. مش لازم إن هم يضطروا يوم الامتحان يتأكدوا إني مستنيين حد actually يجي إن هم ينجحوا في الامتحان. الجوب اوتلوك، so نسبة الشغل حلوة جدا especially بعد كوفيد. again ناس كتيرة retired بس research shows that it's growing 7%, which is considered faster than average. The estimated salary in 2022 statistics show the median average wage is about 81,000, which equals around $39 an hour. Usually as a new grad, it's lower, maybe around 70,000. That's it. But one other thing I want to mention, for Nashville here, we do have 3 schools that have a dental hygiene program. One of them is South College, the other is Remington, and then TSU. Okay, these are the 3 schools we have here in Nashville. Of course, في other schools out of state, but I know sometimes احنا بنكون حابين نعرف ايه الschools اللي موجودة هنا جنبنا ان our kids to stay close to us. But we do have 3 programs. It gets very competitive علشان most schools accept بياخدوا 30 شخص بس. فبيبصوا على الادميشن اكزام الجي بي اي في هاي سكول في الكوليدج current college وبرضه في هاي سكول بيlook at the experience. Sometimes honestly when it's very competitive وبيكون في عدد كبير جدا applied they start getting strict بقى asking for experience, like why don't they look who has dental assisting experience, which is مساعدة دكتور أسنان. بيوريهم إن في experience، بس هما usually بيعملوا كده لما بيكون عدد كبير جدا وعايزين، هو مش requirement بس again like many of them mentioned أهم حاجة إن الريزومي يكون stand out، بيكون مختلف عن الناس التانية اللي مقدمة. ف some people choose to do that and هما بيدخلوا dental assisting to make their application stand out and make their application look better, but it is not specifically required. Thank you.
Next we have Shiri Gayes for law.
Hi guys, we're almost out. So my name is Sherry. I'm a first-year law student at Vanderbilt. Does anybody want to do law? Anybody thinking about it? Okay, great. I would encourage you, if you already think you want to do something else and you're like, hakun doctora, and all that, like, I encourage you to stick with your goals, but also keep your mind open, because no matter how many of these talks you go to, you really don't know what the person is doing in the career until you're either shadowing or in the career. So just keep your mind open. It's very hard to know what you want to do right now, but first thing about law is it's nothing like it is in the movies at all. There's a lot of different types of law, which I'll get into, but one thing I'd like to mention is every single one of these careers needs a lawyer. So every doctor has, every hospital has, all of these people need someone that they can fall back on that can defend them. And I'd like to also think that medical, you're helping a lot of the physical well-being and you're helping them with that, but lawyers help their actual like mental well-being and their financial stability, and they put a lot of people in a position that they were better than they were before. I'm sure medical also does that, but so the first thing is that lawyers don't argue. If you think that I'm really good at arguing and I'm gonna go to law school because I like to argue, that's not what you're doing. What lawyers are doing, if you're gonna be a lawyer, you need to be very good at analyzing problems and figuring out the solution. So you're gonna have cases that have already been decided in the past, and you're gonna look at how those cases are similar to your case facts and your details, and you're gonna figure out how to make those comparisons and dissimilarities to try to prove to your client or to the court or whoever that this is why your person should win. So if you're social, you like to talk to people, you like to solve problems and puzzles, and you like to think, and you like to read and write, and the thought of blood makes you squeamish, this might be something that is good for you. So my undergrad, I majored in philosophy, psychology, and sociology, also at Vanderbilt. And the best thing about law, you don't have to major in anything specific. You can major in whatever you want to major in. The most important thing is that you keep a high GPA, because that's what law schools will look at. Also, internships, they're important and they're great, but not a lot of law firms will hire high schoolers or even college students. So the two most things that you need to focus on to get into a good law school is your GPA and your LSAT score. You'll take the LSAT your junior year, like a lot of these other professions. But so, you know, internships are great, experience is great, but the most thing that they want to do is that they see that you're a person, that you have a social life, that you have hobbies and interests, and, you know, you do things outside of just school, whether that's a part-time job, whether that's working in government, you know, anything like that. Law school is 3 years after you graduate, and there's no residency or anything like that. It's 3 years, you graduate, you take the bar exam after you graduate, and then you graduate in May after the 3 years. You take the bar exam in July, you start working in October-ish. Some law firms will let you work earlier. So I'll break down the types of law for you really quick. So there's government work, which is not very popular, but it's like defenders, prosecutors. If someone goes to jail, the government's going to provide you a lawyer, and that's the kind of government work that you're, you know. And then there's public interest, which is like you're working for a nonprofit, helping them with whatever their goal. And then the most common type of work is you're working for a law firm. And there's big law firms, which is going to be the most pay, and it's going to be the most work. There's mid-size, which is what Nashville has most of. They have a lot of mid-size law firms. You're going to have a good work-life balance. You're also going to have financial stability. And there's small law firms where it's 2 or 3 lawyers, 10 lawyers, something like that. And, you know, you guys sometimes specialize. It's called a boutique firm, where they specialize in a certain type of law. But at those mid and big-size law firms, there's going to be every single type of law there. So a lot of times you don't know what kind of law you want to do until you start working in those firms. And another thing, when you're a summer intern, so after the first year of law school, you're gonna try to get an internship at a firm. After the second year, you're gonna try to get an internship. If you do good at that internship at the law firm, they'll hire you, they'll give you a return offer, and they'll ask you to work there full time after you graduate law school. So a lot of times while you're in school, you already know where you're gonna be working after you graduate. And what am I missing? Salary, it varies very immensely. So if you're working for government work, that's probably the least amount of money that you'll be making, but you'll still be making around 70-ish. If you're doing nonprofit, since you know it's a nonprofit, they're not making that much money, but it's a good work. It's helping a lot of people. And if you're working for a law firm, it really depends too. If you're working big law in New York, you're making, you know, an insane amount, but you're also really struggling and you're working in New York. If you're in Nashville, it'll be around 150 is the median for your first year, but there's I would say every year there's an increase about 15K in your salary. And once you become a partner, which means you have a portion of the law firm, you have like an investment in the law firm, then you have a really big pay jump with that. And I'd also like to leave you with a verse, and it's open your mouth for the speechless in the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the needy, of the poor and needy, in Proverbs 31. And I think that really encompasses a lot of the work that lawyers do, whether they're defending people. I'm not sure the type of law I want to do yet. I'm thinking medical malpractice, just because that's a very common thing. That's Nashville. Nashville law firms, a lot of them really focus on healthcare, whether that's defending insurance companies, defending hospitals, defending lawyers, or defending patients. But yeah, I think it's a really great field to look into if you even have a little bit of an interest. I'll be around if anyone has any questions later.
هنتكلم عنها. هي محامية في أول سنة ليها في الجراد سكول طبعا. هي كانت بتقول يعني انت لو انت فاكر ان المحامي بيارجيو كتير، يعني بيجادل كتير، لا هو اكتر بيدور على بيحاول يحلل الكيس ويدور على المشاكل فين ويلاقي لها حلول، ويدور على حاجات evidence، يعني حاجات حصلت في الحقيقة علشان يثبت ان اللي هي الواقف عنه يعني ان هو تمام يعني. فهي بتقول لو انت مثلا بتحب تكتب كتير، تقرا كتير، تلعب بالبازلز، سوشيال يعني تحب تتكلم مع الناس او تعرف ناس كتيره، وعندك حياه يعني، و اكتر اوت جوينج، مش انتروفيرت، مش متوحد قوي يعني، وبتحب تطلع تتكلم، الشغلانه دي ليك. اجتماعي. هي اندر جراد، يعني اول 4 سنين، مش لازم تبقى في ميجر معين. هي عملت فلسفي اللي هو فلسفه، وسايكولوجي اللي هو علم النفس، وحاجه ثالثه. what was the third one؟ philosophy, psychology، ايه؟ sociology. بس مش عارفه ايه sociology بقى. علم الاجتماع. علم الاجتماع. بس انت مش لازم تتخصص في حاجه معينه، يعني ممكن تتخصص في اي حاجه انت حاببها. بس هي اهم حاجه ان الGPA بتاعك يكون عالي، وال سايد بورد اكزام ده اللي بتاخده علشان تخش ال law school، مدرسه المحاماه، ده برضو لازم يكون عالي. هي قالت ان هو لما بيبصوا على الابلكيشن بيبصوا ان انت اجتماعي، بتعمل حاجات كتير، ليك موهبه معينه بتعملها، سيرفيس اكيد في الكنيسه برضو ده بيتضاف، بتشتغل، مش بس حياتك بس مذاكره بس، هم بيبصوا على حد اجتماعي يعني ليه حياه وبيعرف يتعامل مع الحياه. بعد ما تخلص الاندرجراد اللي هي 4 سنين، المحاماه 3 سنين، وبعد كده بتاخد حاجه اسمها البار اكزام، بعد كده بتبتدي تشتغل في 3 انواع شغل. اول شغل اللي هو الجفرمنت ورك تبع الحكومه، يعني بتشتغل مع الناس اللي هي بتخش السجن والحاجات دي، ده بيبقى اقل حاجه في الفلوس يعني، بيبتدي من 70,000. وفي البابليك انترست ده بيبقى نون بروفيت يعني، منظمه غير ربحيه. وبعد كده في law firm اللي هي مؤسسه قانونيه. دول بيبقى في ممكن يكون بيشتغل تحتهم مثلا من 5 ل10 محامين لمئات. فطبعا كل ما تكون اللاw firm كبيره، كل ما طبعا تاخد فلوس كتيره، ممكن توصل ل150,000 في السنه. هي كمان بتبتدي من 150. This is the big law firm. mid size دي اللي هي بتبقى في وسط يعني. واو that's a good money. فهي كانت بتقول ان انت في اول او تاني سنه من اللاw سكول ممكن تاخد internship في اي law firm من الحاجات ديت، وطبعا انت لو انت عجبتهم وكده، طبعا دوت هياخدوك وتشتغل معاهم بعد كده، ودي تبقى احسن حاجه يعني عشان تبقى انت عارفهم وهم عارفينك. بس الفلوس في عامه يعني بتتغير على حسب انت شغال فين، بس كده.
Now we have software engineering with Michael Rubin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael. I work as a software engineer on PA, Department of Veteran Affairs. So let's start. Why software engineer? Or not software engineer? Why computer science engineering at all? If you like looking for like 4 years of studying or less, you can do it on less than 4 years. You don't need like a bachelor or undergrad, and then you need to study more. So just one study. If you're looking to work from home, which is great, I love work from home. If you don't like to deal with customers, which is a lot of less headache, that's all for software engineer. So to explain what the software engineering or like what's a computer science engineering, we have 4 bases. The first one is cybersecurity. So anything around software engineer, it's about data. So cybersecurity, the people who try to protect or to secure the data. Like recently, you're hearing a lot of some hospitals, they got hacked and their information already exposed, that's a very bad thing. Like our information, like social security, credit numbers, that's bad. So that's the responsibility of the cybersecurity engineers, which is who should prevent that. They can like do that through like databases, network, or like there's like several things. The second field, it's called data analyst or data specialist. That person who use like ton of data, they consume like all this information. Like for example, something we can see on our phones, like all of us have like Amazon application and Facebook. So sometimes when you search some product on Amazon and you go back to your Facebook, you see this product show on the recommendation. that's something of AI, artificial intelligence. So they consume all the information from our phone and they represent something related that will increase like the profit, like the profit for those companies. So that's for AI, for data science. And the last, also one, two, yeah. The third one, software engineer, that's what I'm doing. So we normally take like information and build on that. So for example, what I'm doing, we do software for hospitals. So we work like, take the patient information, they try to schedule an appointment on one hospital. So we send it to the hospital, they have like the ability like to select some doctors, some specialty, stuff like that. That's for the software engineer. The last one, which is the IT specialist. The IT specialist, the people who build the servers, the network, that's host all of this. Like it's like container for all the others, like softwares or cybersecurity or all of this. So how to get there? So if you're looking for like a specific program, you have to look for the college. So I look for MTSU. MTSU right now, they have like a software engineering and they have cybersecurity. They don't have the other programs. But the good thing, you can start with a community college, which is way cheaper. You can get 2 years there and make sure you can transfer these courses to the university itself or the college, which is you can do like 2 years right here on Motlu, and you can transfer to MTSU. In MTSU, you can just need like 2 years. So which is the most important 2 years. The last 2 years, you need to, on the last, so I don't think currently like you will take 5 to 10% of the practical work on the university. It's more like theories, which is important, but you will not use it at work at all. But it's still needed. So at the last, maybe at last, like on the third year or the fourth year, you will start to build something like called portfolio. So you will learn like language, computer language. We have like many things. So you need one of the three, Java or C or Python, and you will start to build a project. The good thing about that, you can search for any resource online. It's free on YouTube. And there's like paid ones, but it's not expensive. There's like a website called Udemy. You can go there and select one of the courses, and at the end of each course, it helps you to build a project. That's how you will show a case when you apply for a job. So that's for this way. And then also we need to build, like as a resume and the portfolio, we need to worry about like LinkedIn, because a lot of recruiters, they will find you on LinkedIn. So for the salaries or the jobs, you normally start around 75, which is the minimum, and you can go up to 300,000 a year, which is, that's need at least like 3 to 4 years experience to get there, but it's still possible. Yep. And if you have any questions, we can answer. Yep.
اوكي سو هو كان بيتكلم عن ان هو انت مالكم كشت قوي كده ليه؟ اوكي سوفت وير انجينير اللي هو سوفت وير اللي هو سوفت وير عادي بالعربي، انجينير اللي هو مهندس برمجه. فهو خد 4 سنين كمبيوتر ساينس، بس هو قال انه انت ممكن تاخد اول سنتين ارخص في مقلو which is a community college، وسنتين اللي بعدها في MTSU. وهو قال ان السنتين اللي هي تبقى في MTSU دي اهم سنتين، لانك بيسكلي بتتعلم ازاي تبرمج وكده. هو قال في 4 أنواع من مهندس البرمجة. سايبر سيكيورتي ده بيسكلي اللي بيتأكد ان الموقع مثلا بتاع الهوسبيتال او المدرسة ديت او كذا وكذا ما يتعملوش هاكينج من بره وياخدوا كل المعلومات عن العيانين على الطلبة كده. تاني واحد اللي هو داتا اناليسيست، لما دول الناس اللي بيتاكدوا ان برودكت معين يبان عندك. يعني انت مثلا لو بتتكلم مع حد صاحبك او كده عن كوتشي مثلا اون كلاود، هتلاقيه مثلا ظاهر عندك على الفيسبوك، او انت عملت ريسيرش عليه في جوجل وطلع لك على الانستجرام. هم بيعملوا بالطريقه ديت علشان طبعا يزودوا البروفيت بتاعت الكومباني ديت، بتاعت الشركه ديت، علشان ياخدوا فلوس. ثالث نوع اللي هو السوفت وير انجينيرنج، اللي هو البرمجه اللي هو بيعمله. ده بياخد معلومات وبيبني عليها فهو ادى اكزامبل ان مثلا البيشنت عايز يعمل ابوينتمنت، فبياخد اسم البيشنت دوت وهو اللي بيظبط له الميعاد فين مع انهي دكتور ويروح الساعه كام. ورابع نوع اللي هو الاي تي سبيشالست، ده قال بيسكلي ان كل اللي فاتوا دول هو اي تي ده بيعمله، يعني هو بيجمع على كل اللي فات. اهم حاجه بعد ما تخلص ال4 سنين انك تبني حاجتين، الريزومي بتاعك والبورتفوليو بتاعك. علشان تعمل كده في حاجه ممكن تعملها ببلاش على اليوتيوب، انك تتعلم اللغه بتاعه البرمجه او اللغه بتاعه الكمبيوتر. هو قال في 3 انواع، جافا وسي وفي واحده تاني هو اللي قالها دي. فدي حاجه على اليوتيوب ممكن تعملها ببلاش، وفي حاجات طبعا بفلوس بس ببلاش اسهل يعني، ممكن تحطها في البورتفوليو ده وانت انت اتعلمت الحاجه ديت. بس وقال اهم حاجه بعد ما تخلص على الحاجات دي كلها تريبريزنت يور سيلف، يعني تحط نفسك في الماركت بليس بره وتعرض نفسك على لينكدين which is مكان كده ويب سايت للعمل، تحط الريزومي بتاعك والبورتفوليو بتاعك، وهم الناس بره بتوع الشركات بيبصوا على الريزومي بتاعك دول ويتصلوا بيك يقول لك مثلا احنا عندنا شغل وكده. الفلوس ممكن يبتدي من 35,000 ممكن توصل 375 من 75,000. انا قلت برضه ده هيوج ديفرنس. 75,000 300,000 بس طبعا 300,000 ده تبقى عندك خبره 3 أو 4 سنين كده يعني على الاقل، بس كده.
بين شهرين مثلا او 3 شهور مع حاجه اسمها بوت كامب. البوت كامب ده بيدينا زي كورس مكثف، بيبقى حوالي زي فول يعني لايك فول تايم وورك، 8 ساعات في اليوم، كلاس اونلاين. ده مثلا بيبقى لمده شهرين او 3. بس في بوتس كامب كتير دلوقتي، الموضوع بقى بيزنس. يعني هو في منهم بياسك يو تو باي اب فرونت، ودي بيبقى في منهم بيقول لك مثلا تدفع لايك 36k، ده الكوست بتاع الكورس. بس ده مش نوع مش كويس. في بوت كامب افضل دلوقتي موجود، ان هو بيقول لك انت مش هتدفع ولا مليم، هتبدا الاول تستارت وتستادي، وبعد ما احنا نجيب لك جوب تبقى هناخد منك برسنتج من اول سنه بس. ودي حاجه كويسه جدا. يعني انت ممكن مثلا دلوقتي مثلا ايه، كنت بلان مثلا ان انت تخش مثلا ميديكال سكول او حاجه زي كده، بس خلصت الباتشلر بس لقيت نفسك مش قادر تكمل، بس عايز تسويتش لحاجه ثانيه، فساعتها ممكن اللي هو تروح البوت كامب ده لمده 3 شهور، وهم اوريدي هيجيبوا لك شغل عشان ياخدوا هم فلوس، لان هم لو ما جابولكش شغل هم انت مش هتدفع لهم اي مليم. ده بيبقى موجود في الكونتراكت. هو دلوقتي موجود منهم كتير. انا خدت سيرتيفيكت واحده منهم في فاندربيلت، بس دفعت كتير جدا وهم في الاخر ما عملولكش حاجه. فيعني لكن الافضل ان هو اللي بيعمل بروموشن للابلكيشن دول بيقول لك انت مش هتدفع اي فلوس اب فرونت، نو ماني اب فرونت، لحد ما هم يجيبوا لك جوب. فدي افضل اوبشن موجوده دلوقتي. بس ده في ما هو بص، دي ألذ حاجه في الموضوع ده ان هي الريسورسز اغلبيتها فري.
And last but not least, we have architecture engineering with Berto Michael. Sorry.
Okay, sounds good. How are you guys? Good. نصحصح شوية كده مع بعض. We're almost done. So, with all respect to all other jobs and doctors and nurses, we're the best here. At least in my opinion, they left the best for last for a good reason. But that's only because architecture is very fun. I think it's one of the better job experiences that you can have out there, especially if you're very interested. Again, it's very rewarding if you're very interested in it, so I would definitely recommend. But what is architecture? بالعربي مهندس معماري. That's exactly what you do. انت كل اللي بتعمله بتطلع برا بتقيس مباني if you're renovating, or you're making new buildings. In that case, you're designing new buildings. You're typically always on site. You go out a whole lot to measure things, so you also have to go out to check out the site. So we're a lot of things. We are people who go out on site. We are people who draw on the computer. نرسم مباني. We need to figure out how buildings should look like, how it's organized, how it looks on the outside as well. But we also are doctors to buildings. That is, we know how walls should look like. If I can see a wall, I know what's behind that wall. I know how to fix the wall as well. And Baba's trained me on this a long time ago. I've been fixing lumbas and walls and everything that follows. But we do a whole lot of things, and that's what makes it fun. Your day is different every single day. And that's architecture. For architecture, it's a little bit strange. It's a little bit different than engineering because we do a 5-year program. There are 2 different programs that you can do. There's an architecture engineering program, which I would not recommend you do, and an architecture program. Architecture program is typically 5 years long. Okay? It could span up to 7 years, but it's typically 5 years of undergrad. Architecture engineering is 4 years. It looks tempting, it looks very fun. That being said, you have to finish the 4 years and do more schooling after in order to get licensed. So what I would recommend, ريح نفسك وخلاص وخلص 5 years. If you have an architecture program, do that. Architects are not engineers. Not until last year did mama think that I'm an engineer. I am not an engineer. Okay? I work a lot with engineers. نشتغل مع مهندسين كتير. بس هنا in the US, architects are not engineers. What makes us different is we do the work prior to the engineers. So we again lay the foundation for the engineers. We do all the drawings, we make sure that they know what they're doing, and they go out and do it. So we don't do it. Yeah? That's a couple of differences between architects and engineers. But a couple of things you need also for school. You need a portfolio. Portfolio is essentially a book of your work, things that you've done in the past. And that could be anything on earth. It could be sketches, drawings, it could be models that you make, small buildings that you make, and it also could be just a painting that you drew. So it's a whole bunch of things. So in high school, you need a portfolio. Again, a portfolio بالعربي كتاب للشغل اللي انت عملته. ممكن يكون sketch، ممكن يكون painting، ممكن يكون تصميم موديل حاجة تقدر تبنيها. بس you need a portfolio. It's a book of your work. And you need to show your work before you get into architecture school. Again, it's 5 years, so it runs very quickly. And they want to get those in school who are competent and know what they're doing. And so they ask for a portfolio early on. One thing you also have to do is to know how to sketch. Sketch is not a drawing. It's very quick. I can do a sketch right now in 2 minutes. I can do a sketch that takes a whole lot longer. But you need to sketch. If you don't know how to sketch, if you're scared of sketching, do it. You don't get good at anything unless you practice. So you have to sketch and practice with that. When I got into architecture school, the only pen that I held was the good old pen that we use. Okay? And all I did was I wrote. I didn't use the pen for something else different than writing, and that's it. But you have to challenge yourself in sketching. You have to just sit with yourself, go outside, draw something, sketch something. And that's a skill that you can practice, you can drill. It's not something that you kind of are born with. You have to practice with that. So sketching, do a whole lot of these. But also you have to apply to architecture schools. It's a little bit different. Architect لازم apply to architecture school, not just a college. What does that mean? So let's assume that I'm going to MT. MT does not have an architecture program. If I apply to MT, I'll make it into MT. But if I figure out that they don't have an architecture program, I'm wasting my time. What I did was I went to UT. In order to go to UT, I applied to first UT and then the architecture program inside of UT. ليه? Architecture is 5 years long. It's a very specified program. And so once you hit the ground running, you're doing architecture classes. You're not doing math, you're not doing science, you're not doing anything else. You're doing architecture classes, okay? So you have to apply to both the college and the school. There are 2 schools right now that you can apply to here in Tennessee. There's UTK, that you have to ask Abuna first to go to before you commit to anything. And there is Belmont, which is a new program. It's a very cool program. Definitely recommend it. But I love UT. If it was up to me, everyone should go to UT. But these are the 2 programs. And again, 5 years. Aim for 5 years. You'll be done and it'll be fun. It'll be sweet. It's very exciting work. But look for the 5-year program. Do not look for the 4-year program. That's it when it comes to schooling or preschooling. Now school. School is very fun. You do a lot of things different than you do out in the real life. You don't do much actual work in school, but they teach you how to design. Architecture is design before being anything else. And that's, again, what sets us apart from engineers. An engineer can make something, but he cannot design. And so in school, for 5 years, you're being taught how to design. So you're not just limited to doing sketches, but you're also making things. You're learning how to imagine a little bit better, a little bit more. And that's one thing that is required in architecture, is to have a sense of being able to imagine, to daydream. If you like solving puzzles, that's good. You should be an architect. If you like doing math, maybe not so much, but that's a way into architecture as well. If you like sketching, if you like drawing, if you like art, that's a way into architecture. But they teach you how to improve that once you get into school. So they do less practical things that you do in the job. يعملوا حاجات اللي انت تعملها في الشغل أقل بس they teach you how to design. Okay, which is very important. That's very crucial. For 5 years you're designing, and that's the very fun part of it. You stay long hours at school. In my opinion, I think it's one of the hardest majors. So you have to be committed, you have to accept the challenge, and you have to pray a whole lot. But 5 years, it'll be like hell, but it'll be fun hell. You're gonna struggle a whole lot, but there will be other professionals around you who struggle with you. In my architecture classes, first day they took us into the architecture college, they said 2 things. Look to your left, look to your right. The person to your left and the person to your right are not likely to be there by the end of the 5 years. And that was very true. Again, it's a very challenging field. School is very challenging. That being said, it's very fun. Having to stay up till, I don't know, 3, 4 a.m. just working on something by hand, which makes it a little bit different than just imagining things or having to memorize things. Speaking of memorizing, we don't do exams at all. I'll say that one more time. ما عندناش امتحانات. There are no exams for the most part. Okay? But there are projects. So you design things and you build them, you make them, you imagine them, and you make it realistic. As much as you can, obviously. But we do not take exams. We do projects. Okay? Which kind of gears into the work field itself where you do projects and not taking tests, you're not reading much, but you're doing a lot of physical things. So yeah, school, very fun. But you have to show a lot of commitment and there's a lot of work. A lot of work. Again, 5 years are going to be a bunch of a struggle, but it'll be very fun. And that I can guarantee. If you stick along for the 5 years, it'll be extremely fun. One thing you have to do in school is you have to take ownership of architecture. It's difficult out there. And there's plenty of architecture firms. But you have to take ownership in being intentful and applying to firms. لازم تاخد internships. That is one thing that you have to do. As a person that is out in the field, if I saw a kid ما خدش internships, I have to teach him everything from the beginning. School is good and everything, but they teach you again design. They don't teach you the logistical things. So once you can, do internships. And one more thing that architecture school tends to kind of push on you is travel abroad. So at least UT is forcing you to travel abroad, go see something else outside of the country, that is. And that's also one more cool thing about architecture. You have to travel outside of the country. But again, seek internships and as many internships as you can get under your belt before you graduate. That's very good. So that's the schooling part of it. Now work, very different. It's good to have the foundation of design. It's good to be able to imagine and think about things, but it's not good if you can just do that and nothing else. At the end of the day, we're trying to build buildings, make sure that things can stand up, make sure that things are logistical and realistic. And so that's what work does to you. They take all of that design language that you've learned in school for the last 5 years and they make it more realistic. They hammer it into you, making sure that you know what things are. So right now at work, for example, I'm doing simple things like, for example, looking into the bathroom and making sure the bathroom is ADA. يعني ADA. And those who have wheelchairs can go and use the bathroom. You have to do a lot of math for that. يعني if I'm sitting in a chair, I have to sit down and I have to turn my chair. And that requires an amount of space to do it. So again, that you don't learn in school at all. But once you get out there in the practice, you get to learn more detailed things like that. I get to learn, for example, that this column, for example, can hold that roof. If it was a different column, well, it's not going to be able to hold it. And I get to tip my toe on everything else. So think about it this way. You're the boss of this building, okay? Whatever you design, the engineers go out there to make. But if I'm an engineer and I see something that doesn't make sense, then I'm not going to really want to work with you because you don't know what you're doing. So again, you go through your life of having the experience of actually knowing what things are and how things work. So that's work. It's a lot of fun, but it's a different kind of fun. It's less imaginative and more realistic. Again, if you're into that stuff, you're into it. But also, if you're not, you can go back to school and do a couple of more years and become a professor. And what they do is more of the envisioning stuff. They imagine things and they set a curriculum for students. So again, it's schooling continued, I guess. But that's the other side of architecture. That being said, you don't only have to be an architect once you graduate with an architecture degree. I have a lot of friends that came out of architecture school and right now they're designing buses. They're making livable houses out of crates. بيجيبوا bus ويطلعوا كل حاجة من جواه and they put beds وبيحطوا حمام وبيحطوا مطبخ in a bus. I have different friends that work on crochet. بيعملوا سجاجيد والأعمال اليدوية. And that comes from a foundation of design. So you don't graduate from architecture school just to be an architect. If you're interested in something else, you can definitely do it. Because they teach you design, they don't teach you architecture. I have other friends بيجيبوا الكونتينرز بتاعت الشيبنج containers، تبقى كونتينر كبيرة كده قوي، بيعملوا لنا بيوت and they sell it. Again, profitable business. You have to have a business mind to an extent to be able to do that kind of stuff. But it's not just architecture that you do, it's a lot of other things. And as long as you have that foundation of design, you can do a whole bunch of things with it. How much do we make? That's a great question. And that question I left at the end because I didn't want to answer. We don't make that much. At least to begin off, we don't make that much. Because once you graduate, again, you're a designer, you're not an architect yet. You have to go through a set of 7 exams now, maybe 8 soon. But it's 7 exams for the time being. And they're each 3 hours long. You don't take them على طول كده ورا بعضهم. No, you take a good amount of time to go through these exams in order to become a licensed architect. Yeah. It's challenging. I haven't done it yet. I hope that I can do it soon. But you're not done studying once school is done. In fact, you didn't take any exams for the last 5 years. Now you have to take 7. That being said, without the license, you start off with a decent 60, 65 right now in this economy. Last year, I have a friend that graduated and she was making around 50, 55. So when you guys graduate, we'll probably be pushing like 70, potentially 80. I can't tell you exactly how much, but we're making more by the day. Once you have your license, though, that's a whole different story. Now you can actually sign on drawings. You know everything when it comes to making a building. Then you make 100,000 plus. People hire you because you know what you're doing, and you can sign off on drawings of those who work underneath you. And so they make a whole lot more. That being said, there's a whole lot of logistical and liability things, which you can talk about. But you can make a whole lot. And eventually, you can open your own firm. Just like there's a guy in New Jersey, I think, Ayman, right? And he opened his own firm, and now he makes churches, plenty of churches, in fact. He did this church. He's doing design for this church, so he's pretty awesome, cool dude. But again, you can do a whole bunch of things with architecture, and I would definitely recommend it for those who are committed and are interested in something that doesn't get them nauseous from seeing blood or anything else. So yeah, that's architecture. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, تكشتوا قوي كده ليه؟ Yeah, اشتغلوا براحة. Well, I can't thank those guys enough for their time and their effort, and I'm really so proud of each one of you. It's amazing to see them little kids that you teach in Sunday school, and now they are teaching us lots about their career. And again, we will see our generation coming across and also presenting just like them to teach other generation. This is how our church is beautiful, strong with our youth. We thank you again, and we can't wait for the next panel, God's willing. Thank you, and I thank the rest of you who stayed. I'm very sure it's beautiful information. I mean, it's amazing information that we all needed to know. Also, I want to thank Macarius for taking care of all of this and having to contact them and having the group and all this communication. Thank you so much. ربنا يعوضكم وربنا يعوضكم Macarius. If anyone, do you have any questions so far, by the way? أنا عارف it's too long, بس I mean it's a long day, بس we passed paper. في حد عايز يبعت أي أسئلة؟ جاوب. You have a question? تعالي.
Have a program where you do a little bit of whatever you're interested in. In Cambridge, we call them academies. So we have an architecture academy. But if you're interested in architecture, honestly, just know some math. We're not going to do much of math, but know some math. Do plenty of art. More importantly, you have to be self-motivated. You have to go out there and sketch and draw and get things under your belt. Again, you can't go to school unless you have a portfolio of things that you've done, things that you've worked on. So just go out there and be curious, I guess that's the best word I can put it. Draw things, build things, make things.
Yes. Architect برضه. Now we keep to the list for questions. Wow. Go ahead.
Yeah.
how do you apply to the, like, I'm looking forward to going to UK, but I'm not sure how to apply, like you said.
It's a long story. Let's talk after one-on-one.
Okay, second question.
Yeah.
How do you get an internship?
Connections. Talk to people, talk to a lot of people.
Mhm.
You'll have career fairs. In fact, once first year hits, you'll be in a career fair at UT if you're going to UT.
Mhm.
Go to them. You know nothing at all. You have nothing at all to show, but go to them. In fact, maybe my 4th year, I saw this one freshman walking around with his resume and portfolio. I was so proud of him. That kid was clueless, utterly clueless. He didn't know what he's doing. But he was going out there and building connections, and that was why I was proud of him. Just go out there and make connections. The more connections you can make, the better you are off. And there's a couple of people that you should know. One of them is myself. No boasting about that. But there is a couple of other architects that can get you at least an internship very soon if you're interested in shadowing opportunity. Come see me. Talk about that.
Yeah, but before you apply to UT, as he said earlier, you need to come to see me. Okay? That's a good one. Bravo عليك. Yes. Any other question? No? Like, with that being said, let's end up with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Thank you, God, for everything. Thank you for this great opportunity that you've given us this information so we can start our way with you. We ask you to lead our way and to continue with us throughout our life. Through the intercession of St. Mary, St. Christ, and Christ, and all of our prayers, make us words pray thankfully. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine the kingdom, the power, and glory, now and forever and ever. Amen. Now the love of God the Father, the blessing of the only begotten Son, our Savior Jesus Christ, the grace and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Go in peace, and the peace of the Lord be with you all. Amen. They will stay around لو حد عايز يسألهم for لو حد عايز يسألهم أسئلة فردية من الآباء والأمهات أو you guys if you have any questions.